Chapter 22 Trollbella, Queen of the Troblins. A gentle swaying stirred the twins to life. They opened their eyes and found themselves in a cage car traveling down a long, dark tunnel, heading deeper and deeper underground. The cart was pulled by a donkey and steered by a short and fat troll with wide, bat-like ears. "About time you two woke up," the harp said. She rode in the same car as the twins. "What happened?" Connor said, rubbing his head. He and his sister were sore, bruised, and cut up a bit from the crash. "Our ship crashed and we've been kidnapped by trolls and goblins," the harp said. "In other words, we're having a bad day." "We've been kidnapped by trolls?" Alex said. "No, this can't be happening again." "Where are the others?" Connor asked. "They're in the cart behind us," the harp said. "No one was seriously wounded. Thank the heavens." Goldilocks dislocated her shoulder, but set it back in place. Red has a scratch on her cheek and has been crying about it for hours. The twins looked in the tunnel behind them. Jack, Goldilocks, Froggy, and Red were squished together in a cage cart being steered by a goblin. Goldilocks was clutching her wrist, testing the reflexes throughout her hand. Red was sobbing into Froggy's shoulder. She had a smaller scrape across her cheek, just below her left eye. "It's going to take weeks to heal," Red said. "I'm going to look like a peasant." "Where's the wand?" Alex whispered to the harp. "The trolls took everything of value and put it in there," the harp said, and pointed to a satchel he wore around his shoulder. They could see Jack's axe, Goldilocks' sword, a tip of the wand poking out on top of it. "Are we going to be slaves now?" Connor asked in a loud and frustrated voice so the trolls would hear them. The troll let out a rumbling chuckle. "I wish," he growled. "We don't have slaves anymore. You lot are in for something much worse." Soon the carts were passing under a stone arch the twins remembered from their last visit to the underground kingdom. The stone had two statues underneath it, one of a troll and one of a goblin, and in bold letters what used to say, "Be troll, be goblin, or be afraid." Now read, "Welcome, friends." The twins rubbed their eyes to make sure they were working properly. "Huh?" Connor said. "Are you reading what I'm reading? Or do I have a concussion?" They moved through the arch and down a long stone tunnel. The twins expected to descend into a large, noisy, common room they visited before, but everything was completely different. Instead of being filled with hundreds of trolls and goblins, being served drinks and food by human slaves, the room was completely still. All the stone tables and chairs had been removed. The trolls and goblins stood attentively in perfect lines. "That's odd," Connor said. "It's like they're at boot camp or something." The trolls and goblins faced an empty stone throne, all waiting for their leader's arrival. They weren't quite as ugly as the twins remembered, and the smell of their poor hygiene wasn't that strong either. Had they finally learned to take care of themselves? The carts turned a corner and moved down another tunnel, headed for the dungeons. If the twins remembered properly, they were shocked to discover the dungeons had changed too. The individual cells had been removed, and now they were just one big space with furniture and torches. A dozen or so humans mingled about the room. They weren't the frail, overworked slaves the twins had seen last time, but more a bored and restless group, yawning and twirling their thumbs. The troll and goblin pulled the twins and the other captives out of the carts and pushed them into the room with the others. They drove the carts off, taking the harp and the satchel with the wand of wonderment inside it with them. "Don't let them take me away," the harp cried. "They're going to melt me and force me to nose rings." Unfortunately, there was nothing they could do. A large gate shut behind the cart as the troll with the magic harp drove off. Jack, Goldilocks, Red, Froggy, and the twins were trapped with the others. "We have to get the harp and the wand back," Jack said. He put his hands on the gate door and shook as hard as he could, but it didn't budge. Twins didn't look nearly as stressed as the rest of them. "Don't worry, if we could escape this place last time, we can do it again," Connor said. Once again, the voice of optimism. Things look so much more civilized in here now, Alex said. She walked up to a woman and politely tapped her on the shoulder. Excuse me. Hello, my name is Alex Bailey. Can you tell me what we're doing here? I don't know what you're doing here, but I was kidnapped when I accidentally wandered to the troll and goblin territory, she said. How long have you been a slave, Conrad? Slave, Fred said, and tears immediately came to her eyes. She was so distraught by the scratch in her face that the reality of the situation hadn't fully sunk in. Royals can't be slaves. Why is my life a reverse Cinderella story? The woman grew even more annoyed talking to them. I'm not a slave, she said, insulted they would even think such a thing. They just make us dance for the queen as punishment for being on their property without permission. They make you dance? Alex asked. She wasn't sure she had heard her correctly. The Troll Queen loves watching people dance, the woman said, so every evening after dinner she makes her prisoners and citizens dance with each other. Excuse me, did you just say Troll Queen? Connor said. What happened to the kings? Don't ask me. I've only been here a week, the woman said, and walked off, obviously not wanting to be bothered with questions anymore. The twins looked around the room and the other prisoners. Alex? Connor? Said a voice nearby. Sitting on the ground in the back of the room was a friendly face the twins were never expecting to see in a place like this. Dr. Bob, Alex gasped. Alex and Connor were in shock and couldn't move. Bob got to his feet and ran to the twins, giving them a long, teary-eyed embrace. I thought I was seeing things, Bob said, but it's you. It's actually you. The twins' heads filled with so many questions, they tried filtering them to the basics. Bob, what are you doing here? Connor asked. How did you get into the fairy tale world? Alex said. Bob let out a lengthy sigh. I've had quite the adventure, he said. I was at the house when Mother Goose and the soldiers realized you were gone. A door appeared out of thin air in the living room, and your grandmother appeared. While Mother Goose was explaining what had happened, I slipped through the door, and I've been here ever since. How long have you been here? Alex asked. A week or so, I think. Maybe a day or two more, Bob said. Connor's eyebrows shot to the top of his forehead. You've been down in this dungeon for a week, he said. Oh, no. I've been all over the fairy tale continent, Bob said. I've only been to the troll and goblin territory for a day or two. Alex happily clasped her hands together. So it was your ring the sea witch was wearing, she said. Why were you the sea witch, Bob asked. Bob looked back and forth between the twins, scared just at the sound of her name. What are you two doing with the sea witch, he asked. We're kind of trying to save the world. It's a long story. But how did you go from a rental house to the bottom of an enchanted ocean? When I got to the fairy tale world, I started looking for you and your mother immediately, he said. I asked every villager, every farmer, and every creature I came across. No one who knew who I was talking about. I am getting lost in the woods. It was freezing, and there was snow on the ground. Sounds like the Northern Kingdom, Alex said. Please keep going. Like I said, it was freezing and became dark. Bob continued. A huge family of black bears surrounded me. I thought I was going to be eaten alive. But then the most amazing thing happened. A series of trunks and chests ran from the sky and fell on top of the bears. The twins side-eyed Goldilocks and Red, who shared the same stunned look in their faces. I don't know where they came from, but thankfully they were full of dainty coats, scarves, and jewelry, Bob said. I wrapped myself in the clothing and was able to survive the cold night. Amazing, Red said through her teeth. Losing her belongings hadn't been such a waste after all, but still was bitter about having had to toss them overboard. Bob continued to animatedly recall his trip for the twins. I searched the land for a few more days with no luck. I found myself in a village on the coast and was able to trade the jewels and the clothing to a sailor in exchange for a small boat. I hope to have more luck traveling by water, so I traveled from port to port, but still didn't find a trace of you two or your mother. I sailed through an enormous sea storm and was tipped over into the water. I was just about to drown when The sea witch's hideous anglerfish saved me, or at least I thought they were saving me. They brought me to a cave and stored me with the other animals they kept to feed the sea witch's sharks. I noticed the sea witch had a soft spot for jewelry and remembered I had your mother's ring in my pocket. I gave the ring to the sea witch in exchange for my freedom. I watched the shore and wandered almost aimlessly for a couple days before the trolls found me, Bob said, and now here I am, miraculously talking to you two. The twins were awestruck. They gawked at him with enormous eyes and wide-open mouths. That's an incredible story, Bob, Alex said in an almost whisper. You went through all that for Mom, Connor asked. Of course, Bob said. I would have walked to ends of the earth if I had to. Any world. But not just your Mom, for you as well. Alex and Connor were touched. Until this moment, they hadn't realized how much Bob loved them. It was slowly dawning on them just how much they loved him in return. Who might this brave man be? Froggy asked the twins. This is Dr. Bob, Connor said. He's our stepdad. Hearing the sound of those words made Bob smile from ear to ear. He had found his family at last. A doctor, thank goodness, Red said, interrupting a sentimental moment. She showed him the scratch on her face. On a scale of temporary to permanent, how bad is this, Doctor? Well, I had to include it on my official portraits. She braced herself to work. Bob wasn't sure how to respond. I say they'll be gone in a day or so, Bob said, then had a look at the four adults surrounding the twins. Who is your entourage, guys? Oh, sorry, Bob, Alex said. This is Jack, Goylox, Froggy, and Red. Queen Red Riding Hood of the Red Riding Hood Kingdom, Red added. Bob gave them a friendly nod. Pleasure, he said. Have either of you located your mother yet? The twins shook their heads. She was kidnapped by an Enchantress, Alex told him regretfully, but we still don't know where she is. The Enchantress, Bob asked? The one everyone is talking about? Connor nodded his heavy head. Unfortunately, he said. Bob started pacing. He looked just as worried as the twins had when they first discovered the news. We have to find a way to save her, he said. Don't worry, that's what we've been doing all this time, Connor said. We're on a quest, although it's kind of paused at the moment. The gate screeched and opened. A troll carrying a whip entered the room of prisoners. He's not going to whip us, is he? Fred said, hid behind Froggy. Not if he knows what's good for him, Goylock said. The troll cleared his phlegmy throat, addressing the prisoners. The queen is almost finished with her dinner, he growled. It's time for us to join the dance hour. Against their will, the prisoners in the room disgruntledly followed one another through the gate and entered up the tunnel to the large common room. Bob, the twins, and the others stayed as close to one another as possible. When they reached the common room, all the humans were herded to the side against the wall. A very thin goblin with a metal belt, a cape, and staff approached in front of the room. That's Rickworm, Bob whispered to him. He's the queen's advisor. Bow down, Troblins. Rickworm squealed and banged his staff to the ground. The great imperial Queen Trollbella approaches. Alex and Connor jerked their heads toward each other. Queen Trollbella? Alex said. You've got to be kidding me, Connor said. A moment later, the entire room was bowing as Queen Trollbella strolled in. She was the twins' age and looked exactly as they remembered her, short with a round face and a cute snout nose. But Trollbella had taken the title of queen very seriously. An enormous headdress in the shape of two horns sat on her head with strings of teeth between them, the species of which no one could tell. A round ruffled collar Queen Elizabeth I of England would have been envious to have around her neck. She wore a long russet lacy dress, and on her large feet were golden slippers. She made her way through the crowd of trolls and goblins, bobbling her head regally as she walked through the subjects. She took a seat on the stone throne at the front of the room. All of the trolls and goblins looked genuinely afraid of her. Even Wigworm appeared intimidated as he stood by her side. The twins had to admit it. Trollbella was rather intimidating. How is a troll queen respected more than me? Red asked herself out loud, and Goldilocks nudged her to be quiet. Thank you, Trollbella cried out. I just had the most scrumptious dinner, hog liver and acorn soup, and now I'm ready to be entertained. Now dance for me. Redbird hit the ground with his staff. A small band of trolls and goblins wheeled instruments into the room and began playing music. They pounded on stone pianos, blew horns made of actual horns, and played on violins and cellos made of bone and spider webs. The trolls and goblins standing in the center of the common room began dancing around one another in a routine they evidently had to concentrate very hard on. They had obviously thoroughly rehearsed it beforehand. Wigworm watched them intently, continuing the dancing beats to himself. The twins figured he must have choreographed it. Trollbella smiled and nodded her head to the tempo of the music. Dance, Troblins, dance, she demanded and clapped her hands in delight. As the dance progressed, the trolls and goblins started pulling the prisoners onto the floor, twirling and dipping them as part of their routine. Froggy was pulled in a pair of ugly troll women. They blushed and giggled as they danced with him. Red turned pink watching the troll woman swing with her bow above round. A goblin tried to grab Goldilocks' hand, but she shot him a nasty look that scared him off. The troll that had captured the twins carried the magic harp into the room and set it beside the band. The twins could see he still had his satchel around his shoulder containing the wand. What is this? Trollbella said excitedly, kicked her feet at the throne. A gift for you, my queen, the troll said and bowed to her. We acquired it this afternoon for you. By acquired, he means kidnapped, the harp shouted. Someone play the shiny woman, Trollbella ordered. I want to hear the sound of her strings. One of the goblins playing the band tossed his violin aside and began playing the harp. The harp burst out laughing and it tickled her. Stop that, the harp cried. That tickles. Be gentle, it's been a while. The trolls and goblins in the center of the room stopped for a moment and watched as the harp was played against her will. Trollbella squinted at them. Did I say you could stop dancing? She yelled from her throne. Wigworm slammed his staff on the ground, and the trolls and goblins immediately picked up dancing where they had left off. The group of prisoners to the side was getting smaller and smaller as more of them were being incorporated into the dance. Connor was hiding behind the ones who were left. He didn't want the dance, but even worse, he didn't want Trollbella to see him. As the dance went on, Jack, Goldilocks, Froggy, Red, Alex, and Bob were all pulled into, one by one, and twirled around. Connor was the only one left and stood alone. Trollbella gazed around the room, pleased by all the dancing, and her eyes finally landed on Connor. The troll queen screamed. Her mouth opened and her eyes grew twice the size. Stop the music, Trollbella ordered, and the band went mute immediately. She clutched her chest over a rapid beat in her. My butter boy has returned, she gasped. Connor cringed. Hi, Trollbella, he said, and awkwardly waved at her. Trollbella was beside herself with excitement. I knew you would come back to me one day, butter boy, she said, softly, almost in a trance. I have waited ever so long for this moment. Well, here I am, Connor said, blinking uncomfortably slowly. Although the music had stopped, a 1,000-piece symphony seemed to be playing in Trollbella's mind. Bring me my butter boy, Bush, she ordered. A couple of trolls wheeled a very heavy cart into the center of the common room. A giant stone bust of Connor's face sculpted to perfection was on the back of it. Is that me? Connor said, horrified to see the massive replica of himself. Trollbella hopped off her throne and placed a hand on the bust's cheek. I made it myself. I look at it every day we're apart, she said, dreamily. But you look so different now, butter boy. You've gotten taller, handsomer. You're my butter man now. Trollbella walked toward the real Connor like a lioness approaching her mate. Her heart was practically fluttering out of her body. She threw her arms around him and squeezed him as tightly as she could. She looked up to his sister. "Help me," he mouthed at her. Alex only shrugged at him. What could she do? "I need slow music so I can dance with my butter boy," Trollbella ordered. "Now, Troblins, now!" The band started a slow, romantic melody. Trollbella danced with Connor to the music. Rather, she moved him around the room and he followed. "Trollbella, what is a Troblin?" Connor asked. "It's what I renamed my people when I became queen," Trollbella said and rested her head on Connor's chest as they swayed. Her kind headdress almost poked in the eye. "The Goblin King didn't have an heir, so I inherited both thrones and combined them." "What happened to the Troll King and Goblin King?" Connor asked. "Rocks fell and they died," Trollbella said simply. "It was tragic. It was messy. Environmental hazards where you live in an underground kingdom." "I'm sorry to hear that," Connor said, not sure whether Trollbella was saddened by the incident. Trollbella shrugged happily. "But at least I'm queen now," she said. "And a great king that I've been for my Troblins. We had a bad reputation for so long. I've tried restoring honor and class by making them bathe and dance." "You've done a nice job," Connor said. "But I do get so lonely down here," Trollbella said, and looked into his eyes. "I long to be married and start a Troblin family of my own someday. Oh, Butterboy, will you please be my Butter King?" The entire room went silent at the sudden and unexpected proposal. Alex slapped her hands over her face. "King?" Connor exclaimed. "Me? Of the trolls and goblins?" Trollbella silenced him with her index finger. "Shh, Butterboy," she said calmly. "I know we've only been reunited for a mere 3 minutes, but I've never been so sure of anything in my life. It's a tremendous honor to be my husband. I know, but let the idea sink in and accept it. Embrace it. Love it." Trollbella was so much more powerful now. Connor was terrified what she might do to him or his friends if he turned her down. "Trollbella, he said with difficulty. "I believe you're looking for the word you're looking for is yes," Trollbella said. Connor was saved by a bright violet flash that suddenly filled the room. A large hourglass covered in vines and thorns appeared in the center of the floor. It had purple sand that was falling quickly into its base. Whatever it was timing, it was going to happen in a matter of seconds. "What is that?" Connor asked. Trollbella rolled her eyes at the hourglass. "Oh, don't worry about that, Butterboy. That's just from the Enchantress." "The Enchantress!" Connor yelled. "Why is the Enchantress sending you an hourglass?" Trollbella tried waving the subject off like it wasn't important. "She visited me yesterday," she said, as if it wasn't a big deal. "She was trying to get me to surrender my kingdom to her. Apparently she's trying to take over the world or something. I wasn't listening. She was interrupting my dance time." "What else did she say?" Connor asked. "She said the elf empire had surrendered to her already," Trollbella said. "The elves are still mad if they weren't included in the Happily Ever After assembly. The Enchantress figured, since the trolls and goblins have never been included, why would we want to surrender willingly too?" "Did you surrender?" Connor asked. "Of course not," Trollbella said. "It was dancing time. Nobody interrupts my dancing time." "Did she threaten you with anything?" Connor asked her. "She was a difficult troll to get information out of." Trollbella thought about it. "Oh, she did say I had a day to think about it, or she would cause horrible destruction to my kingdom," she said blankly. "Well, aren't you worried she will?" Connor said. "I live in a big hole with trolls and goblins," Trollbella said. "What is worse than that?" Alex ran up to the small queen. "Trollbella, we have to get everyone out of here as quickly as possible." It was the first time Trollbella had realized Alex was in the room. She couldn't remember why she didn't like her, but the feeling was just as strong as ever. "You?" Trollbella yelled, and then gave Connor a dirty look. "You're still hanging around her, Butterboy?" "She's my sister," Connor yelled. That never mattered to Trollbella. Every other girl was a threat when it came to her Butterboy. The purple sand was going fast. "We have to get out of here before the Enchantress attacks," Alex desperately declared to the room. "What do you think the Enchantress is going to do?" Froggy asked. "I'm not certain, but I have an idea," Alex said, "and I pray I'm wrong." The final grain of hourglass's purple sand fell into the base. time was up. A thunderous rumble caused the common room to shake. Something monstrous was heading their way. "What's happening?" Red yelled. She turned toward the stone entrance tunnel, and the whole room turned with her. A gigantic tidal wave was hurtling toward them. "I was right," Alex whispered to herself. "Ismia is flooding the kingdom." The troll goblins and humans screamed at the oncoming water. There was no time to waste. They had to do something fast, or the water was going to crush and drown the entire kingdom. Alex ran to the troll with the satchel over his shoulder and yanked it off him. She ran toward the rushing wave, digging the satchel as she ran. She found the wand and brushed all the items off the bag until it was just the ice scepter again. Alex pointed the scepter in rushing water. An icy blast erupted from the tip of the scepter and shot again straight into the water. The tidal wave slowed into a big icy wall yards away from where Alex stood. The trolls and goblins cheered. "The squishy girl has saved us all," Trollbella said, and quietly with wide eyes. "You're a genius," Connor yelled proudly to his sister. She looked back at him and they shared a smile, but it wasn't over yet. The wall of ice began to crack and snap as more water flowed behind him. "We need to get out of here," Alex yelled. "The wall isn't going to hold the water back forever." Red smashed his staff into the ground. "Everyone, follow me to the back of the tunnels," he yelled, and the Troblins stampeded behind them out of the room. The band abandoned their instruments, including the magic harp, and ran with the others. "Don't leave me," the harp said. Jack and Froggy hoisted the harp over their shoulders and followed the others out in the common room with Red at her tail. "My apologies, Your Majesty," Goylek said and scooped Trollbella like a baby doll. "I love you, butter boy," Trollbella called back to Connor as Goylek carried her off. Alex and Connor stayed behind. Alex was blasting the scepter, reinforcing the icy wall as it swelled under the pressure of the water behind it. "Alex, Connor," Bob said, "we have to get out of here before it's too late." "They need time to escape," Alex said. "I have to keep the wall up so they have a chance. Go, save yourselves." Alex was holding the scepter like a flamethrower, freezing the water as it crept closer and closer. She squeezed it harder, and even stronger blast shot out of it. Connor had to grab hold of it too so it didn't knock her over. Every second counted. Finally, the pressure was too much for the scepter to hold off. The water rushed toward them. Bob pulled the twins in the direction the others had gone, and the three of them ran for their lives. They ran up the tunnel, and others had escaped into with the water chasing them. Luckily, the troll and goblin territory was like a giant ant colony. The water had other places to go besides after them, but the underground canyon filled quickly, and the water swirled violently around the twins. They were running as fast as their legs could carry them, but the water caught up with them, and they were engulfed. Bob and the twins shouted at the ground as if they had been stuck in the whale's blowhole. They landed hard on grassy dirt somewhere outside the territory. They were soaking wet and coughing up the water they had swallowed. The twins and Bob got to their feet and had looked around at wherever they were. They were standing in a field on the edge of the forest. The entire troll and goblin race was spread out across the field with Jack, Goylek, Red, Froggy, and the harp sprinkled between them. They moaned and panted and held on to the loved ones they had nearly lost. It looked like something the twins would have seen on the news after a natural disaster had occurred. "Where are we?" Alex asked. "Doesn't matter, Kaz. We're alive." The twins and their friends gathered together in the center of the field. "This is a very brave thing he did back there," Jack said, and placed a grateful hand on Alex's shoulder. "You saved our lives, Alex," Goylek said. Trollbella strolled up to Alex. Her headdress had been knocked off and her blonde pigtails were exposed. "You saved me and my Troblins, squishy girl," she said. "Will you forever be grateful?" All Alex could do was nod, overwhelmed by the gratitude she was receiving. She dumped out the satchel, and all of their belongings the troll had briefly stolen from them fell on the ground. Jack took his axe, and Goylek took her sword. Alex watched the wand of wonderment reconfigure itself as the pieces of mirror, the scepter, and the stepmother's ring, and the sea witch's pearls were reunited. A whole kingdom has been ruined, but it looks like something can be salvaged, Alex said. She picked up her mother's silver engagement ring off the ground and handed it to Bob. It gave them hope that everything hadn't been lost. Jack led a group of troll and goblin men into the woods and returned with firewood. They set up a series of campfires for the night. Bob walked around and inspected everyone that had been injured in the escape. Although he was a little confused by the troll and goblin anatomy, some four-toed feet weren't actually missing any toes. Everyone slept on the ground that night. The next day, the granny crash site was discovered not too far away from the troll and goblin camps. The ship's damage was irreparable, so they stripped it apart and used the pieces of woven wood and stitched fabric to create tents for the campers. While Jack was helping the trolls and goblins tear the ship apart, he found Claudius hiding in the destruction. Jack brought him back to the camp and was reunited with Fred. "Oh, Claudius, there you are," she said happily. "I was worried sick. I was afraid you were being gobbled up by a relative or something." They configured a tent for their group of 8, 9 including Claudius, to sleep under. Trollbella insisted on putting her tent as close as possible to the one Connor slept in. She talked openly about her future wedding, although he had never given an answer to her proposal. "Trollbella, you and the Troblins just lost a kingdom," he said. "I think you have bigger things to worry about." "You are so wise, Butter Boy," Trollbella said, "and someday you'll make a wonderful Butter King." Trollbella was homeless, but still not hopeless. Jack, Goldilocks, Red, Froggy, Bob, and the twins sat around a campfire that evening. They were feeling pretty dismal after witnessing the Enchantress attempting to kill an entire kingdom. "Where do we go now?" Goldilocks asked. "We collected everything except what we need for the Enchantress, and no one has any clue where she is," Bob asked. "No," Jack said, "but as soon as we do, it'll be our next stop." Connor grew tired in hearing from the same pointless questions being asked. "I'm going for a walk," he said. "I need to clear my head." "I'll go with you," Alex said. "Some air will do us some good." The twins walked into the trees beside the campground. It was nice to have time away from the others and vent to each other. "She's such a monster," Alex said under her breath. "I don't think I've ever hated someone as much as I hate the Enchantress." "I never thought one person was capable of such damage," Connor said. "When are we going to have the answers we need to get rid of this wench? I'm so sick of asking questions." Something began moving between the trees in the distance. The twins looked up and saw a familiar ghostly woman floating toward them. "It's the Lady of the East," Alex said. The ghost hovered in front of them. Connor took an angry step toward her. He wasn't afraid of the spirit anymore, but had grown very frustrated by her appearance. "What do you want from us?" he yelled. The ghost didn't respond. She just stared at the twins silently, like she always did. "Hable Inglés?" Connor tried in a horrible accent. "Connor, I don't think she speaks Spanish," Alex reprimanded. "What do you want?" Connor shouted. The ghost raised her hand and pointed to the east. "Yes, we get it. You're from the east," Connor said. "Listen, ghost lady, we got a lot on our plate right now. Unless you can help us, please go haunt someone else." The ghost looked back and forth between the twins and nodded. She turned around and flew into the trees, but stopped to look back at them. It was the most the twins had seen her move. "I think she wants us to follow her," Alex said. "I think she wants to help." The ghost nodded again and floated off into the distance. "Why are ghosts so passive-aggressive?" Connor asked. "Let's follow her," Alex said with a shrug. "What do we have to lose?" Connor eyed the ghost nervously. "You better not be taking us on a wild ghost chase." The twins followed the spirit through the trees and into the east. They had no idea where she was taking them or how long they would be gone. But the twins hoped wherever they were going, they would find the answers they needed. It was a few hours past sunset, and the magic harp had the tent all to herself. Twins had gone for a walk, and the others were gathered around the campfire just outside, quietly talking among themselves. The harp gazed through a tear in the tent, and the trolls and goblins camping around her. Even though they had kidnapped her and forced her to play music, she couldn't help but feel sorry for them. No creature deserved to have its home destroyed in such a merciless manner. She wished there was a way she could help the twins stop the Enchantress, except for the obvious one. The wonderment was resting on a tree stump on the ground in front of the harp. She had been keeping as much distance from the wand as possible. Every time she saw a strange, alluring sensation swept through her, as if she was being magnetically drawn to it. The harp knew she was meant to be part of the wand. She was just worried what her incorporation would cost her. "So tragic," said an airy voice in the tent. "I gave the Troll Queen a proper warning, so she only has herself to blame." The harp turned to see who had snuck into the tent behind her, and she saw a face she hadn't seen in more than 100 years. "It's Mia," the harp said. "Hello, Gloria," the Enchantress said. "It's been ages since the last time I saw you. You look wonderful." "I haven't aged again. Then again, I suppose that's one of the perks of being made of gold." The harp was neither timid nor scared. Unbeknownst to the others, the harp and the Enchantress had a history together. "You should know," the harp said crossly, "or has your memory spoiled as much as your soul? You're the one who transformed me into this instrument." "Was that me?" Mia said and playfully gestured herself. "The musician fell in love with me and left you. You turned me into an object. You turned me into an object and captured his soul, so I would be forced to live forever and spend eternity without him. How cruel," as Mia said. "Sounds like something I would do, though." If the harp had tear ducts, Esmea would have caused tears to roll down her golden face. "Why are you here, Esmea?" the harp said. "Are you tallying all the lives you ruined?" The Enchantress smiled malevolently. "No, I came to see that expression on your face. I waited over 100 years to see those eyes filled with bleakness, of seeing your whole world crumble around you," she said, "because you were responsible for putting the same look into my eyes once." "You still blame me for the musician's mistake?" the harp said. "Oh, please, the fault was shared," Esmea said. "You let him pursue you, even though you knew it was breaking my heart. You didn't think hurting me would have a consequence, because, like the rest of the world, you thought I was powerful in ability but weak in spirit." "And now are you satisfied?" the harp asked. "Now that you've shown the world the evil you're capable of, have you found your peace?" "I may not be fully satisfied yet, but I will be soon," Esmea said. "I have big plans for this world." The harp shook her head, almost pitying the Enchantress. "No, Esmea, you'll never be satisfied," she said. "You think by robbing other people of their lives you'll find your own? But it doesn't work that way. You'll be searching for happiness your entire life, but will never find it, because you wouldn't know what happiness was even if it scratched you in the face." The Enchantress' eyes grew wide with anger. Her hair was rapidly flowing above her like an aggressive flame. The harp might have infuriated her, but she was delighted by the feeling. Esmea smiled as her spirit absorbed the emotion, and her body became stronger. "Thank you," Esmea said. "I have a big day tomorrow, and I need that extra boost. But one thing before I go. If I do search for bliss forever, I'm so glad you'll be around to see it." The Enchantress vanished from the tent without a trace. The remark was like a knife in the heart to the harp. She couldn't bear the thought of watching Esmea's wrath evolve for all time. She looked down the wand in wonderment and reached toward it. She was ready to sacrifice whatever she had to, so Esmea didn't win. Alright, that is the end of chapter 22. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more from The Land of Stories, The Enchantress Returns, and also more books to come in the future. Also, if you have really good book suggestions, make sure you comment down below in the video, so book suggestions for me to read later on. But most importantly, I hope you have a wonderful day and hope you enjoy the reading. Bye!